All right, we're recording. Nicholas, good to see you, mate.
Great to see you, Daniel.
So we've got Nicholas Safford with us, and Lauren is going to ask you the first question, and that's going to give a clue to the rest of the listeners as it is to what you do within the Bitcoin space.
What is a venture capitalist?
So venture capitalist is basically a company that funds startup companies. So we provide capital, we provide networks and advice to founders when they're trying to build their companies because they need these things to grow and become a larger, more successful business. That's essentially what venture capitalists do.
How do you think they make their money, though, Lauren?
That's just a guess, but maybe a bit of a stupid one. But I don't know. Stacking sats.
Stack businesses that stack sats. Yeah. Do you want to explain, Nicholas?
So venture capitalists make money when they invest money in a company, and let's say the company is worth $1 million when we invest, and over the next 5 or 10 years, we invest money and we help the company grow, and they become a company worth $100 million. So the venture capitalists will earn a percentage of the profit from when they invested to when they sold. So in that example, the profit would be, $99 million, let's say, assuming there's no dilution. And then so the venture capital firm would take a percentage of that profit. And so in that way, investors and the venture capital firm is aligned to both want the company to succeed, right? The venture capitalist is very much compensated based on performance. So if we don't perform, we don't get paid. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Sound like a fun job? No, you get to meet all the new people in the space that are trying to build companies and get to,
Bitcoin.
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, venture capitalists, they cover all kinds of sectors, but Nicholas is looking at Bitcoin companies only.
Well, yeah.
So like your plushie business, for example.
Yeah.
Like you would need an investor. Like we spoke with Jonathan at 10:31 about that, right?
Yeah.
So you can't get a plushie business off the ground if you don't have the money. So Nicholas or a company, if they saw value in that, they would help you. They would give you some money to begin with, so you could start making the plushies, and then they would help you with a network, and then they would help you with connections, and it would help you with marketing, with sales, and give you the expertise. All in the hope that in 5 years' time, you've sold all out of plushies and you've made some money and you want to stop selling plushies. So you close a business and they'll take, or you sell it on to someone else and they take a percentage of that sale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. Cool.
This is all basically capital markets, and capital markets go from, when you first start a business, when you maybe are just funding the business with your own money or with friends and family. And then when you grow a little bit and you need more money and more help, that's when venture capital comes in. And then after venture capital comes what's called private equity, growth equity. And then eventually, you raise money through an IPO. So that's sort of the different stages. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's sort of the different stages of the capital markets that a company would go through.
All right, okay. You're up to speed. Now go and teach your brother Samuel what a venture capitalist is. So then it's in your sticks.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Nice to meet you.
All right, mate. Yeah, so we didn't even... Do you want to introduce the name of the company? We didn't even say that at the beginning. Though.
Yeah, it's New Layer Capital. We've been around since about 2021. And we are a venture capital firm investing in tech companies building on Bitcoin throughout the sort of infrastructure stack. And I would sort of clarify that the stack, goes from sort of layer 0, the energy and the computing layer, up through layer 2 and layer 3. So we invest across the whole stack, and we're basically exclusively investing in tech companies building on Bitcoin.
All right, cool. But let's wind it back and find out what you were doing, like your career before this, because a lot of people who listen to the show, excuse me, enjoy listening to how people, first of all, found Bitcoin. Everybody's a sucker for a good old rabbit hole story. But the past lives of us Bitcoiners, what we were doing, out there in the world of fiat growing up, and oftentimes finding a predisposed touch point to something's happened in our past that's predisposed us to finding Bitcoin and helping us make all those epiphanies. So yeah, where are you from? Where were you growing up? What was going on when you're a young lad running around in short trousers?
Yeah, so I'm from the States. I'm from outside of DC, actually. So I spent time growing up in Northern Virginia. And in Northern Virginia, most of the people working there are working for government contractors, defense, working for the government, also tech. There's a big tech kind of sector in Northern Virginia. I grew up abroad as well. So I spent 5 years or so growing up in Hong Kong, which I think you might have lived in Hong Kong for a while, right?
I was in Singapore, but I spent a fair amount of time in Hong Kong, to and from the offices and whatever else. So so why Hong Kong? What moved you there? Your father was in some kind of sector that took you to Asia?
Yeah, he was actually worked for an energy company, so power company, and his company was developing power plants. They're basically a power plant developer, and he and a group of people, the companies in the U.S. company, and this was in the 1990s. The company sent him to Hong Kong to sort of be part of the team that set up the China office. So they were sort of developing power plants in China back in the 90s. And we went over with him, and that's why we were there.
So how old were you at that stage? Because, being yanked out of Northern Virginia and just like turning up in Hong Kong, that's a huge change.
Yeah, I was about 10 when we went over there, and I left when I was like 15. So
Wow.
formidable years.
Yeah.
Hong Kong was great. I loved it. You could, back in those days, you could. I remember like taking taxis as like a 10-year-old, like everywhere. Like also riding the buses. They had those double decker buses, so you kind of like would sit up there and. Yeah, I remember being very autonomous, like at a very young age, because Hong Kong was a place that you could do that very safely. You could get around very easily, and it was really, really safe. So my parents just let me kind of do my thing.
Were you living right downtown, or were you slightly outside?
No, so I went to this school called HKIS, Hong Kong International School.
Right.
It's in Tai Tam, which is near Stanley, and it's not in the city. It's not in the city. It's sort of in the suburbs of Hong Kong. So it was, but you could get to the city within 10 minutes of taking a bus there or a taxi there. It's just a very small island, as you know.
So at the age of 15, when you leave that, where was that to next?
So I went to boarding school in Massachusetts to high school at that point, and So I came back from Hong Kong, went to the States, like finished high school, and then I went to college in the States. I worked for a few years in the States, and so I got my bachelor's in finance. I worked in New York and DC for 4 or 5 years in traditional finance, so sort of venture capital and private equity. And my experience was mostly in sort of energy, actually. So private equity, energy investing, developing energy projects, that kind of thing.
What years were
And then
they that you were on Wall Street in air quotes?
so that was 2008, actually.
Holy crap! I was gonna say was
Yeah.
that so that was after Enron, right? Enron was slightly before that, if I remember.
Yeah, this was during the global financial crisis, though. Like when it
Mhm.
hit, I was in New York. I just graduated, I think.
Nice timing.
Pretty bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad for a lot of people. Um, so yeah, I think I worked for a few years, and in 2012, I went back to Hong Kong to get my MBA. So I went back to Hong Kong, got my MBA. I wanted to get out of the States, like after
Mm.
seeing what happened with the global financial crisis. Like my opinion was basically, the States is not really the future. Maybe I should go to China and try to get a job in China. So I had grown up there and I had spoken Mandarin when I had grown up there. So I thought, well, let me go back to Hong Kong and get my MBA there. So I went to Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, and that's in Sai Kung, which is on the Kowloon side. So went to business school 2 years. I worked a little bit during school, and I did an internship at a private equity firm in Vietnam during my summer. So I also live in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, in other words. And then after my MBA, I had an offer from a big energy company in the Middle East, the biggest energy company in the world, in Saudi Arabia. So I then went from Hong Kong, moved to Saudi Arabia, and I started working for this company doing M&A, corporate development, like, kind of private equity style, investment banking style work, where, if the company wants to buy another company, our group would basically originate those transactions, evaluate them, and then execute them. Also, if we wanted to do a joint venture with another company, we would handle that. Or if we wanted to divest some asset in the business, that was our role as well. So strategy and corporate development, basically.
And
so I spent 10 years.
a hell of a lot of due diligence, I'm guessing too. Like, getting to know exactly what you're walking into.
Yes, of course. And you hire like banks to help with the due diligence, and also like accounting firms. So really the job is kind of like managing consultants, like that you hire to actually like help you close the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
During the execution phase, it's a lot of like managing lawyers, managing investment banks, managing accounting firms when you're doing the due diligence, to put everything together.
Man, is it anything like the television shows that we watch? I've never been at the boardroom table during an M&A kind of discussion or negotiation.
It's far more boring than
I was going to say.
I mean, it's like there's not much drama. I mean, like than anyone like would care to watch. It's way more boring.
Right. Okay. So you're now in the Middle East. again, huge change, right? Huge culture change. This is something obviously that has carried, a significant thread through your life. Being able to embrace change, I suppose, from an early age. And I see the same in our kids, because our kids were born in Singapore, and then we traveled with them for almost 3 years, and then we've lived in France for a while, and who knows where we'll live next. But it's just, they just brush it off. It's like, yeah, it's just part of life. It's great to see.
Yeah, that's great that your kids are growing up that way. I think it makes them very like resilient, I think, or it made me kind of resilient and also independent. But at the same time, I don't really, it's tough to call a place home, for me, because I bounced around so much.
Mhm.
That's sort of the downside. Most of my friends back in, or the people I knew when I was, growing up in the States, like they just stay there their
Yeah.
whole lives or for most of their lives. So, um,
So were you the
I
only
think,
one? Were you the only one thinking the way you were thinking after the global financial crisis, or was everybody kind of looking over their shoulders in Wall Street, or were they just trying to hold on to their position as much as they could?
I think, it's a huge step for someone who hadn't grown up abroad to be like, well, let me just go abroad, like, and let me use business school as a way to do it. That's a huge step for a lot of people who only know where they're currently living, So I think most people were just trying to hold on to their jobs where they actually live. Like most people, I don't think would consider, going abroad if they hadn't grown up there previously, or most people haven't even been abroad, like in the States, right? So, um,
Yeah, fully stuck on the hamster wheel.
mhm. And the States was a very different place back in 2008, like it's really gone downhill since then. Uh, so I'm kind of like in hindsight, I think, I don't know, I might have made a good decision. I'm not sure, but today it's just a nightmare there. Like if you look at the news headlines, it's like
Oh my God. Yeah.
everything's like
Don't
horrible.
Yeah, don't look at those. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, and Saudi, right? A lot of people in the US would think, "What on earth are you doing? You got to be crazy living out there because of all of the FUD that they've been." You know, I mean, it's a country I've not ever visited, so I have no opinion on it. So, could you get us up to speed? What's it like to live there? Day to day, because all we hear about are the human rights infractions and whatever else,
Mm,
whatever. Like you said, read the headlines. Read them at your
yes.
peril.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't know the history of Saudi. So, going back to like the 1930s, Saudi discovered oil, and the U.S. helped them discover oil. The U.S. and Saudi have been sort of partners since then, very close and allies, right? And the country has realized, I guess, some of the greatest growth ever of any country because of the oil that was found there in the 1930s. And obviously today they're, I think, the largest exporter of oil. About 13% of the world's oil, give or take, is produced in Saudi, right? The U.S. is also a huge exporter, but in terms of living in Saudi, it's changed. In the 1970s, Saudi was a very liberal place, very liberal place, and then there was some kind of conflict internally, and this group called the Wahhabis kind of gained more influence, and the Wahhabis were or are more religious, and so they kind of changed the country a lot from the 1970s to the 2000s, and a lot of those changes, like for example, like the reforms have been happening over the last 10 years. So the Wahhabis kind of have lost a lot of influence. You had these things when I first arrived called the religious police, which had powers to kind of like uh, if they saw someone doing something like against the Quran, for example, like outside, they could punish them. Kind of like police, but religious police, right? Those people or those groups have lost power. They no longer have any power. Women couldn't drive before. So within the last 5 years, now women can drive. They're developing those cities like in Neom, which you may have heard of. So they're developing a big place called Neom on the west. So living in Saudi has not been bad. Has been pretty positive in terms of like safety. It's very safe. There's very low crime. If you leave your wallet like somewhere, you can expect it to be returned to you. So low crime, safe. In a lot of ways, it's like Dubai. It's just Dubai has been built for tourism because the economy relies on that, whereas Saudi, the economy is largely fossil fuels based. But it still has all the good traits of sort of the UAE in terms of safety, cleanliness. People are civil, like society is very civil. So people kind of, they follow the rules, I guess. Western societies, they don't follow the rules or they rebel against rules, which is a good thing and a bad thing, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty positive, I would say, and it's probably nothing like what people hear in the headlines.
Yeah, I'm sure most people just have an image in their head of, I guess, women having to be covered from head to toe and can only see through like the small slit in their in their masks. I mean, that's obviously nonsense.
That's not true. It's a choice of the woman, but there are women who dress like that, but there are also plenty of women who don't wear anything on their head or the baya. So.
All right. Well, we need a Bitcoin conference over there.
Yeah, I was just at the Bitcoin Oasis conference in Dubai. Did you hear about that one?
I saw a little bit about it, but not too much. How did it go?
Good. It was the first one, and they have this Bitcoin Association of Dubai now. So I think they're going to start expanding to different cities in the Middle East, which is good.
Ah, interesting. So, well, yeah, you could be Mr. Johnny on the spot there to help fund the businesses that are moving over there. I know CoinCorner, Danny came on last year to talk about their link with Dubai and with the Sheikh over there because they were showing a lot of interest in opening up like a hub, for want of a better word, for they're probably going to call it crypto hub, I guess. But they would, yeah, very much leaning on the expertise of Danny and the team at CoinCorner. So that was great to see. I don't know, did you run into the guys over there? Were they present?
Yeah, Danny, I've been speaking with Danny for a while. I think you introduced us last year, and I think, yeah, I think they're doing a great job trying to enter the UAE. They've got their first employee there, David, but their product is really useful for this region because I don't know if you know this, but they have this payments technology, kind of like Strike, where they can facilitate remittances, and there's lots of people in the Middle East who, are working here, but they're not from the Middle East. So they're from India, they're from Bangladesh, they're from Philippines, and Dubai was basically built by those people. So you have like $250 billion, I think, of remittances per year volume coming out of the Middle East, which is like 1/3 of the total remittances market globally. And the only way that they can remit money today is like through Western Union. That's like the dominant. That's the dominant technology that people use to remit money. So what CoinCorner can do is basically come in and leverage the Lightning Network so that people can get around Western Union and remit money instantly at a very low cost. And they can also use the same technology for cross-border payments because the Middle East is huge buyers of goods and services from China, from Russia, from India, Asia. More and more, they're buying more products from these countries, right? So why do they need to use the SWIFT network to do that? They really don't need to be using the SWIFT network. They can just go around it with Lightning rails, right?
It's such a huge opportunity, and it makes me wonder why it takes so long for these things to get implemented. It seems as though someone's always dragging their feet somewhere along the line.
Yeah, it's just the way things are. I think it's if you always have done something, it's kind of like if it works, why change it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It takes work. It takes work to change it.
Right. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about what you're finding interesting and what you've managed to what you're able to share about what you've invested in so far.
Well, I can talk about a couple things. So what we're seeing that's interesting, I think, what's often overlooked in sort of the Bitcoin VC world is what's under layer 1. So this whole layer 0 investment area. So the computing layer and the energy layer. And I see, we see lots of innovation happening at that layer. So new chips are being designed. I'll give you an example. Today's chips, they're basically designed to have a very high uptime, right? So like 99% uptime. They're designed to hash and just keep doing that job. We saw a company recently that's doing something very, kind of interesting. They're designing this chip architecture that's designed to have low uptimes, like uptimes that would be conducive to placing these chips, co-locating the mining with like a renewable asset, so like a wind asset or a solar asset, where your uptime is, not constant. It's kind of intermittent, let's say. So there's innovation happening on the chip level, and then there's innovation happening at the mining level, where companies are finding new ways to mine. And what I think is happening is mining is moving in two directions. One is you have these large grid scale projects that are connected with grids, so they're interconnected with the grids, and they can help balance the grids, and they can provide services to the grids by shutting off, and they can get paid for providing those services. And then the other way mining is going is very small scale mining, widely distributed mining. And a good example of that is a company we invested in called Hestia. They're a French company. You know them pretty well, I think.
Yep.
Amazing guys. So it's like 16, 17 member team, and they're basically creating heating products, and their first product is a radiator that's kind of a really beautiful looking piece of furniture almost that you would put on your wall, except these radiators, they heat up with ASIC chipboards. and instead of a heating element. So imagine having a little Bitcoin miner in your house, which is about 1 kilowatt. So that's 1,000 watts, right? That's about 3 times less than the S19, which is 3,000 watts. So imagine how many millions of these little radiators all over Europe that are hashing and heating people's homes. So that's the other direction mining is going. Is we're going to see it. We're going to see it widely distributed. I think where you need heating, and they're not selling Bitcoin. They're selling heat. So they're selling. They're converting electrical energy into thermal energy, and the heat is a waste product from the computing. So basically, they're able to use the energy twice. They're using the electrical energy to mine Bitcoin, one, and they're using it to provide heat to households. And so these models where miners can innovate like that, and where they can generate multiple forms of revenue from one piece of infrastructure, I think are the future of mining, because they will, their effective costs are going to be very low, because they're generating multiple revenue sources, not only the mining revenue, but revenue from heating. We've seen other kind of companies trying to boil water under vacuum using ASICs. So imagine like water treatment plants that are boiling water under vacuum. You can boil water at lower temperatures when you put it under vacuum. So it like halves the temperature that you boil the water at. And so the water basically becomes vapor, and then you collect the distilled, you basically can purify water while you're mining Bitcoin and sell the water. You also earn the Bitcoin. Another company we saw was, are you familiar with direct air capture of CO2? It's like you need a big fan. So direct air capture of CO2 is, it's a new kind of way to capture CO2 from the atmosphere. So imagine a big fan that's sucking in air from the atmosphere, and on the back of the fan is like a filter where you can actually capture the CO2 and suck it out of the atmosphere. This is like widely considered uneconomical today, but it's considered important because whether you agree with this or not, and I won't go into it, but whether you agree that there's an issue with climate change, the fact of the matter is, governments are subsidizing and putting money towards fighting climate change, and they'll continue to do so. And so, why fight it when it's going to happen anyway, whether you agree with it or not? Is my sort of take on it. But when you have direct air capture, they're basically sucking in atmosphere and then collecting the CO2 on the back. And what they do with the CO2 is they re-inject it underground. So they do what's called sequestration, and the government will pay you to do that. The other thing you can do with it, is sell it. You can sell the CO2 to a company that needs it. So imagine you have this big fan, and then you have the CO2 capture on the end, which you can get paid for. Imagine putting a data center between the fan and the CO2 capture. So you're cooling the data center, the Bitcoin mining, while you're earning revenue from the CO2 as well. So on one piece of infrastructure, you've got multiple revenue streams. You've got the mining, you've got the CO2, and the carbon credit revenue streams. So these types of innovative models where you generate multiple revenue streams off of one piece of infrastructure, and you combine it with mining, are I think one of the ways that mining is going. The other way is the big mega scale marathon type marathon style mining projects.
Yeah, I like these smaller ones you're talking about, because we desperately need to further decentralize mining and the network as a whole as it builds out, obviously. And there's a company here in Germany called in Europe in Germany called TerraHash, which I'm not sure if you're aware of them, but they do. I'm going to get this wrong. I'm sorry, Rachel. But there is a German factory, let's just say, I can't remember the exact products that they are selling on the back end, but they do need to do that heating of water, right? So they use the Bitcoin mining machines to keep the water at more of a constant temperature. So it takes less energy to boil that water for the steam that they need to blah, 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 blah. Very shallow understanding of what they're doing. And I really want to get over there and actually see it with my own eyes. But, you can see where this is going, because if that's just one factory and that just makes such a huge difference to their electricity and power costs, and at the same time, a revenue stream as Bitcoin is coming in, we need more of this. But let's drill down into Hestia, because great guys, Antoine, Alexandre, and the rest of the team. I had Alexandre on the podcast 2 years ago, after I met him at a conference in Biarritz at Surfing Bitcoin, and they were known then as Bitwise Mining.
Wise Element, I think, right?
Yeah,
Wise Mining.
Wise Mining. Wise. Yeah, that's right. Wise. And they had the mock-up there of they had the ASICs in like a liquid cooled container, and that was connected up to like a general boiler water tank that you would see in any home in anywhere in Europe. And yeah, the idea being you mine the Bitcoin, you just plug it in, and that's how you heat the water in your home. And it was a great idea. And we like to think that the ASICs were submerged in the salty tears of shitcoiners, and that was what they were heating. And then I bumped into Antoine in Miami, and he shilled me the Hestia thing that they were doing and how they'd rebranded to Hestia, and this beautiful plug and play, stick it on your wall electric radiator, basically, is the best way that I could describe it to anybody listening. Whereby, and this was the killer for me, whereby in certain countries, and especially in France, sometimes the government will subsidize people, especially when they're trying to phase out, like at the moment, they're really trying to phase people out from using fuel and get rid of your old boilers, whatever, and move more to an electric pump, this, that, and the other thing. So now if you've got, I would love to see them get some kind of government grant or government subsidy. So then the government, without even knowing it, are subsidizing a Bitcoin mining company to sell Bitcoin radiators to complete noobs and normies. No one even knows that they're mining Bitcoin on their wall. Completely blow open the mining network. And it's from the conversations I had with them originally, they were even going to be like opening lightning channels, maybe. That might have changed since then, inside the machines. But yeah, I mean, a brilliant idea, and such a young team, committed team, real good grassroots Bitcoin pleb work, and obviously caught the attention of yourself. And it's great to know that you're helping along with the journey here.
Yeah, it's a good team, and it's a team that is highly technical. So Alex is an engineer, mechanical engineer. Camille's a mechanical engineer. They have thermodynamic engineers in the team from the best universities in France, and they came from the heating world before they started Wise Mining. So they had this shower product that when you take a hot shower, the hot water goes down the drain, right? So they had this device that I guess captured the heat from that water, and then I think it integrated with the boiler in people's houses. But it was a heat capture solution for shower water. So they then, like you said, they well, I don't think you knew that, but you might have not known that, but they did come from the heating space, the consumer heating space, before they actually pivoted into Bitcoin mining, sort of heating products, which we liked a lot because they're already in the space, you know. So it's like traditional entrepreneurs shifting into Bitcoin enabled entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah. I think Alexandre was even early enough to be mining Bitcoin in his dorm room, keeping everybody warm, or like I think overly hot. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Like many
He was
moons
doing it in
ago.
2013, I think he was doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he was like, well, I know how to mine Bitcoin. Why can't we just do this to heat people's houses? So then the Sato product was born, which is the boiler product, or the one that you saw where you know, they were basically retrofitting people's boilers with a new type of boiler that could heat up with ASIC hash boards. But they realized that was hard to scale because, you know, every house is different. Every boiler, you know, required a lot of work to take out and then put the new one in, and hard to scale a company like that. You know, you have a new project for every small house, right? So they pivoted to this call it the electric radiator product, which is the product that is being commercialized today. And yeah, the French government, it is considered an eco-friendly product because they're taking waste heat from a data center, like a computing workload, and then they're repurposing it to heating. So it is recognized as an eco-friendly product. And so when, I don't know if you knew this, but France is banning like fossil fuel heating for new builds. So if you're a new like real estate development, you're actually prohibited from using fossil fuel heating. So your options are like a heat pump, or a you know, Hestia's radiator, basically. So they're cheaper than a heat pump, and they're easier to install. All you have to do is plug it in, you know. So they're having a lot of traction on the business to business sales because of that the problem where you know, you can't use fossil fuel heating.
That's interesting. No, I knew they were trying to phase it out, but I did not know that they'd gone full blanket. Like no new builds can use anything other than. That's wow. Interesting. And yeah, Bitcoin is just sitting there with all the answers. I love it. Bitcoin fixes this. It's like, oh right, you really want to go that way? Here you go then. Here's the product, the perfect product. And at the same time, you're going to explode the, you know, decentralized nature of Bitcoin mining. I mean, what hash power are we talking here? I mean, you know, 1,000 of these things on people's walls, is that, and you know, and where are they thinking about pointing that hash rate as well, I guess is a question.
So each house, like the average French kind of home, would need 3 to 5 of these radiators, because, you know, you have three to five radiators in your house anyway. They're just connected to the boiler, right? So each one of these devices is about 1 kilowatt of power, right? So you can think about, like, I think 1 kilowatt is 1/3 of like an S19, let's say. You know, an S19 is like 3,000 watts, I think. And an S19, I think you have like 120 terahashes maybe. So, but you know, if they can get, you know, there's how many radiators are sold in France every year? Probably 70 million. So, I mean, in France alone, you know, I'm sorry, not 70, 7 million radiators
Right.
every year.
Okay. Still a lot.
Yeah. still a lot. So France, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about the rest of Europe. Like, forget about France isn't even the biggest market. It's North America is the biggest market for electric heating. So they can, you know, I mean, if you have 1,000,000 watts, a million radiators across Europe, you know, you're already one of the biggest Bitcoin miners in the world just with that, I think. Because what's the math? Like, that's a million times one. That's a million times 1 kilowatt, right? Which is, I don't know what the math is, but maybe what, a gigawatt?
I'm out of my depth. All I know is that's a lot of hash rate,
Yeah,
and people that don't even from people that don't even realize it. It's the beautiful Trojan horse.
yeah, it's an amazing idea, and we're helping. You know, we're supporting the company and doubling down on our investments, and we're, you know, they're going to be raising a new round soon, Series A round, probably towards the summertime. So definitely excited to continue to support them.
Yeah, awesome, mate. And I hope to have them on. I know they were going to come on this show, but timings or whatever didn't allow. But as soon as they're ready to announce some other things, I'll get them on. And it's I hope that they're getting around the scenes and getting extra money in as well. And I'm sure you're helping with that. And that's one thing I was going to ask actually about your LPs. You know, how if anyone's listening to this and they're like, huh, never heard of this guy, never heard of what he was doing, never heard of the venture capital fund. What's how can they get involved if they see fit?
Yeah, so actually, you know, most of the opportunities that we invest in, we create these special purpose vehicles. So they're like individual funds. So, you know, we have a network of LPs, mostly high net worth individuals, you know, tech CEOs, Bitcoin mining or Bitcoin influencers, finance executives, so on and so forth. And so just go to our website and then fill out the form for becoming an investor or investing with us. And then if you're an accredited investor, then you can get access to some of our deals that we release to investors that way. So yeah, that's probably the best way to get involved. And some of our investors have actually turned into operating partners. So for example, if you're an investor who's like a former tech CEO or something, or an energy executive, right? Like, there might be a way to involve investors in our portfolio companies if they add value. Um, so, you know, one of our investors we actually put on the board of Hestia. He's a Bitcoin mining executive. He's on the board of one of the largest Bitcoin mining companies. And he founded one of the biggest Bitcoin mining companies in the States. So we thought that he would be a good person to have on their board. And so we appointed him as a board member to Hestia. That's one example how LPs can get involved with the companies that we invest in as well.
Yeah, excellent. And how's it changed, do you think, over the last 2 or 3 years that you've been doing this? The broader venture capital market, like there was so much loose money being thrown at crypto bros that are doing the next best thing, all the shiny things. Is that still kind of the case? Are you tapped into what the other people are doing, or do you feel more of a shift coming over? Is more money coming into Bitcoin only focused projects?
Um, I think it was really ridiculous in 2021. You know, there was just so much capital just being dumped down the drain. Like I mean, it was just, you're right, loose money in like 2021, and today it's like a lot. Valuations have kind of plummeted. Startups are finding it hard to raise money, and then funds are finding it harder to raise money from LPs, right? So it's the whole cascade, and I think it's definitely gotten much harder for companies to raise money now than it was in 2021, and valuations are back in kind of reality today, more or less. But I just was reading the news yesterday, like Twitter, this Elgin Layer company, Elgin Layer, Andreessen Horowitz invested $100 million in Elgin Layer, which does restaking on Ethereum.
Oh my God.
So it's like that one investment, was like more money than 1031's entire first venture fund for Bitcoin companies. And I don't know of a Bitcoin fund that has raised actually $100 million, a whole fund, right? So I mean, still most of the capital is being deployed in projects that are being built on Ethereum and Solana, and the vast majority of capital is being deployed there. This one investment from Andreessen Horowitz, $100 million. I mean, in one single investment. So to be honest, yeah, there's not much. There's not actually a ton of deal flow in Bitcoin only, in the Bitcoin only space. So there's a lot more deal flow like on these other chains, right? But I just think like a lot of it is like, basically investing in projects building on sand. So
there's a
I think
there's a great account to follow on Twitter. It's called House of Chimera or Chimera, I suppose. Okay, yeah. House of Chimera, Chimera. Blockchain research and advisory group focusing on blockchain startups. And they've got a chart out there. So far, we've identified over 45 Bitcoin layer 2 companies.
I see that. Yeah, I have it up right now.
Yeah. I mean, you see that diagram there?
Yeah.
Look at this. Go ahead.
I mean, this is the thing. Like, there's just one being built every day now. So.
Yeah, it's like the ICO craze all over again, and this layer 2 charlatanry is going to. I mean, we really do have to remain vigilant here, especially with what. Oh my God, there's one called Satoshi VM. Oh, Rosetta Protocol. Yeah, we've got to be.
Do you think this is a bad thing if you had like layer 2 solutions, that didn't have their own token, for example, that were kind of like, would you say Liquid is fine? Like,
yeah,
Arc
Liquid
is fine.
Liquid seems to be well, at least with the right intentions. And you've got the Blockstream guys behind that, and they've been around for goodness knows how long. What I see is just this, like you just explained, like $100 million from Andreessen Horowitz just straight into some, and they're not even listed here, are they? What did you say they were called?
That's a restaking protocol for Ethereum. They're not a
Oh,
Bitcoin.
right. So that's just a straight on Ethereum, right? Okay. Well, we'll wait till soon enough they'll put something into whoever's building on layer 2 solutions for Bitcoin, right? That's going to be the next buzzword around the pitch decks, I'm sure, to draw in the VC money. And we could see something crazy like we did with the ICO craze in 2017. So much misaligned investment, malinvestment, excuse me, not just of money, but of talent too. because the talent, the people that can, understand these things. And I know you sent me a text the other day. You're kind of looking for expertise in that area where you can get, advice on who are the people engineering this kind of stuff. Well, of course, they're just going to go where the money is dangled in front of them. And it's going to be these heavily funded crypto bros that are just trying to make a quick buck. And it's going to be the same story all over again. So we've got a malinvestment of time, energy, and talent, and we have a malinvestment of all these hundreds of millions of dollars. It's going to end up being billions of dollars just going down the drain.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think some of them might work out. Others, most of them won't. So.
Well, yeah, tread carefully is going to be the mantra going forward. All right, mate. Well, let's close it down with the final question. If you had one last orange pill left to give to somebody, who would you give that to and why?
Let's see. Well, that's a tough one. I guess I would give it to the President of the United States, because they're kind of if we could get the states on board with Bitcoin, then that'd be a great thing, I think, and for the world, right? Because the states leads by example in most cases, and right now, like the trend is that the EIA is like sending requests to get more information on Bitcoin miners, and we've got kind of uncertainty in the market there in terms of how they're going to regulate Bitcoin. But I guess you do have the ETFs, which were positive. So yeah, I think I would probably orange pill the president, since he can maybe make the most positive impact out of anyone.
That'd be crazy if they push too hard on the Bitcoin miners and then all of a sudden they just pull a China and they're all gone within 2 weeks. That would be well, I mean, that's the danger, right? It's happened before.
Yeah, I think it'd be tough though, because a lot of the projects in the States are like grid connected, and they've had to pay for a lot of the infrastructure. They've paid for a lot of the infrastructure, like transformers, electrical infrastructure to connect to the grid. So it's not as easy as a container that you can move in those cases. You can you might not want to just pick up the container and move. It's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, they've got some huge installations over there. I love watching PR Rochard's videos when he's walking around that huge freaking mining operation that they've got over there. It's very impressive.
Oh, is that on YouTube? Which
Yeah,
company is it?
Riot.
All right.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, how can people reach out to you if they want to get in touch and learn more about investing?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on Twitter, or email us on our website. There's like a link to email us on our website and a form to fill out. That's probably the best place to go.
All right, excellent. Well, thanks for coming on, Nicholas. Appreciate what you're doing in the space. We need more people like you doing the due diligence, especially with your background, right? Having such experience in this area and finding out, well, digging around and finding those Bitcoin companies that are truly worth the investment of your time, your energy, and of your LP's money to help them grow. It's exciting to know that there are people like you out there that are doing this work, and there's a handful, certainly more than there was 3 years ago, but still certainly nowhere near enough. So I appreciate everything you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Daniel. And if you see any deals, please send them my way, and I'll see you in Madeira, I think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're flying out tomorrow at time of recording. So yeah, we'll be there, and yeah, look forward to meeting you in person.
Excellent. You too.
See you, mate.
Yeah.